everybody. This is Brock with Prometheus.
They follow up to here and then they stop. So
To order for July 5th, 2022. Please rise for an invocation from Pastor Pete along with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we pray? Father God, thank you for the beautiful day that you've given us today and for yesterday as we celebrated our nation and its independence. Lord, we pray that you would bless these ones that make decisions for us in Mojave County. Give them wisdom, give them a spirit of unity. Lord, again, we thank you for this great land and for the wonderful providence of your protection over us. We pray now your blessing over this day and over these decisions, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3, 4, and 7. Motion and action to call for an executive session to be held July 18th, 2022 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03A, 3, 4, and 7 to discuss items noticed on the agenda with Astra.
So moved. Second.
For that motion, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Aye.
You guys appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Discussion of pending and contemplated litigation claims and demands. Mr. Attorney.
Nothing today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Committee or legislative reports, Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Chairman Gold. It's been an easy couple of weeks for me. I was able to attend the ACO LPC special budget meeting via Zoom, and I also chaired the legislative session wrap up with the County Supervisors Association. And I want to just take a point of personal privilege and welcome Mr. Craig Sullivan to our board meeting. He'll be presenting in a little bit, and his right-hand person, Vanessa. Thank you for coming. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Angus.
Well, as everyone know, the budget is done. The session's over, and I will defer to Mr. Sullivan, who will be giving us a very in-depth report.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing this morning, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman Gould. Hopefully everybody can hear me today. On the water, just a few water updates. We'll be talking a little bit more about the groundwater basin, Wallapai Aquifer this morning. You have a response back from the ADWR that they're going to be doing a public process to consider an irrigation non-expansion area over the Wallapai Basin or some portions of the Wallapai Basin. As everybody knows from the presentation that was given by Development Services staff and our county manager's office in partnership with the USGS, that is something that we do need over the Wallapai Basin. For the fourth party groundwater, unfortunately, we weren't successful during the legislative term to get any protections there. However, as a part of the Bureau of Reclamation making their call to the 7 basin states, requiring them to come up with a plan to cut another 2 to 4 million acre feet for 2023. Our delegation and our state representatives are working to try to get some sort of protection in Arizona's portion of that plan to basically say that they will not entertain any subsequent fourth priority water transfers until we get back to at least a tier 1 or better area. With the cuts that are coming, we're going to be at a tier 2B or perhaps even a tier 3 under the drought contingency plan from what everybody is saying. So it just doesn't make any sense to continue considering cuts off of our mainstream Colorado River with the ongoing drought conditions. That's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor, County Manager report.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. No report today.
Thank you, sir. Approval of the May 19th, 2022 budget workshop meeting and the June 6th, 2022 Board of Supervisor meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Aye.
The ayes appear to have it. Do have it so ordered. Call to the public. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, a public body may make an open call to the public during a public meeting subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body on any issue within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of the open call of the public, individual members of the public body may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask staff to put that matter on a future agenda. However, members of the public body shall not discuss or take any legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Willow Croney and Tanya Dowson's on deck.
Good morning. My name is Willow Cronky. It's a tough one. I have a soon-to-be 10-year-old kiddo, and please remember that age. It will be important in a moment. It's my job to teach her to consider her responsibilities, consequences of her decisions, and her part in our community. These are the reasons that I'm having this conversation with you today. First, Arizona, much like the rest of our society, has a long-standing history of violating basic human rights in the name of morality. Segregation was upheld as a righteous Arizonan law for 43 years. Arizona Code 302 Indian Reform School legalized the kidnapping and indoctrination of Indigenous children, leading to immeasurable harm and generational trauma. This code is still on our books. Arizona legalized forced sterilization in 1929 of mentally ill or mentally defective citizens, and it took until 1980 for Arizona to recognize that it had missed its responsibility to moral obligations. My question to you, in your position of influence and responsibility, how do you plan to speak out against these things that are still continuing? Second, both the state and federal constitution outline responsibilities to govern and organize communities. This includes distributing wealth and resources to community services. Arizona currently has an average of 14,000 foster children in the system and only 3,000 foster parents. 2020 saw reported 13,000 abortions, with the highest reported reason being not wanting children. The highest reported reason children are in the foster system is neglect. If our legislators continue failing to protect individual rights and access to health care, this isn't new, please see the Hyde Amendment. What are your plans to triage these problems in our communities? Other issues that we could see get worse: overtaxed school system, access to mental and physical health care, and homelessness. And the worst part of this is if we continue not doing anything, this acts as an encouragement for these violations to continue not only in Arizona, but beyond. Third and last, in every official document I could find, the command to uphold the Arizona Constitution and the rights declared within was loud and clear. This includes protecting the community's individual rights, such as, how do you plan on protecting your citizens from harm that are speaking for their rights and demanding to be heard? Like 13-year-old Lily in Lakewood, Florida, that was arrested for using a bullhorn at a peaceful protest. Also, the freedom of speech and press. Do you plan to use your voices to speak for those that can't and those that have been systematically oppressed? And last, a liberty of conscience. When you took your oath to stand in this office, you promised your communities to uphold our rights and our independence, even if it disagreed with your personal choices. Remember when I said that I have a 10-year-old daughter? Someone else has a 10-year-old daughter in Ohio who is forced to carry a pregnancy. How do you plan on protecting our children from that? We have seen the consequences of silence in the face of justice.
Your time has expired.
I understand, and I have one last question. How do you plan on protecting us? Thank you.
Your time has expired. Thank you.
Good morning.
Chairman Gold.
Supervisor Bishop.
I just wanted to say I appreciate one person speaking for a large group like this. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Tanya Dawson, Mojave County taxpayer. Last session, one of our supervisors said that the idea that the purpose of our government to protect our life, liberty, and property is a philosophy that frankly doesn't exist anymore. Here is a new philosophy now in practice. In 1992, the United Nations initiated the Sustainable Development Agenda, often referred to as Agenda 21. A powerful motto practiced by the United Nations is think global, act local. To paraphrase Chapter 28 of Agenda 21, as the level of governance closest to the people, local authorities play a vital role in educating, mobilizing, and responding to the public to promote sustainable development. According to former UN Secretary General Maurice Strong, current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class involving high meat intake, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and work air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable. The Sustainable Development Agenda's preamble states that the development and environmental objectives of Agenda 21 will require a substantial flow of new and additional financial resources to developing countries. Harvey Reuven, Vice Chair of the International Council for, get this, Local Environmental Initiatives, known as ICLEI, said individual rights will have to take a back seat to the collective in the process of implementing sustainable development. Before you dismiss this as some conspiracy theory, it was President George H.W. Bush who signed an agreement to implement the UN Sustainable Development Agenda into the United States in 1992. President Bill Clinton issued an executive order that ultimately turned the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda into public policy to be administered by every federal agency. The UN Sustainable Development Agenda now influences state and local communities across the United States. Under Obama, the United States helped the UN create a more draconian version of the Sustainable Development named Agenda 2030, which calls for global adherence to 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Agenda 2030's number one goal is no poverty, which translates to wealth redistribution. The United Nations Developed Economic and Social Affairs has arrived at the conclusion that the most successful strategy for achieving goal number one is strong economic growth and income redistribution. Marxists believe that as socialism is enforced long enough, people will accept it as normal and eventually believe it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chairman Gould?
Supervisor Angus.
I'm going to respond because she's, the speaker referred to me when she first started speaking about something I said at the last meeting. I'm not asking you to speak, I'm doing my rebuttal. This isn't a back and forth. I'm just responding to you, what you said about me, okay?
I did not mention you in person.
I know, but what she said though, and it's been all over social media, is something I said, and I want to put that in context. We were talking about the way that the federal government disseminates money through these agencies back into the state. I believe that is unconstitutional, but that's what we were doing. The people rotting in jail, the January 6th political prisoners, that is unconstitutional. So what I'm saying is our country has gone so far away from what is constitutional, and I dare anybody to disagree with me on that. Thank you.
Armin Strang and Jim Morgane's on deck.
I'm in Stang of 4321 South Cavalry Road, Fort Mojave, Arizona. And we had a meeting with the sheriff a few months ago, a month and a half ago, and it was brought up that we get more traffic control. We haven't seen anything. There is still speeding in the neighborhood. It is out of hand with the roads. We have more dust than ever with the drought. And the other thing is, we're paying taxes. Why don't we get county service, like development services or code enforcement? I haven't seen them guys in a year and a half, 2 years, doing their job. Then I filed complaints about my neighbors' junkyards. They're dismantling cars day, night, whatever. They're pulling motorhomes in their backyards. And they're renting out property what isn't even their property to rent. So if I do it, you guys are gonna be all over me in a heartbeat. Why can't they get away with it? That's my question, and I really would appreciate answers to it. And then the other thing is, we're getting developments. We have on Andrews, the low-income housing development. Where do we get the water from? We don't have enough water for subdivisions anymore. We need to quit giving out building permits, and we need to quit drilling wells and deeper wells. That if I run out of water, you guys are not gonna be happy. Then I come for my water. I have the right to have my water. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jim Morgane. Katrina Callahan is on deck.
Good morning. My name is Jem Morgan. I'm here today as the Executive Director of Real Change PAC. So Real Change PAC, we focus on nonpartisan common ground issues. The issues I'm here to talk about today is water sustainability. At the last meeting, Supervisor Johnson asked the question, can't the voters just take care of that, in reference to the water crisis we have? And the answer to that is yes. Arizona Revised Statutes 45-415, it allows for a process of voters to initiate an active management area. It goes to a vote, and the voters can decide how they want to protect the water. It's the Wallapai Basin Active Management Area. Real Change PAC has created an earmarked fundraiser for that at realchangepac.com. The issue is, of course, local control. We, the people, are the real local control, but there are some local control issues that this county needs to be taken care of. These 5 points of local control that have not been addressed by this county. Mojave County needs a drought contingency plan. There is not one on file anywhere. If you want to maintain a position of local control, the most basic piece is to have a plan. You don't even have a plan that's a drought contingency plan. The second issue of local control is water conservation programs. The county needs to have internally water conservation programs as well as to incentivize within the county water conservation. It has not been happening. The third issue of local control is the Helm Flood Protection and Water Sustainability Guide. Wayne Hollins has been coming here almost every single meeting talking about those water sustainability projects that are within that document that has been in the county position since 2019, and you're not implementing those water sustainability programs. The last two are Arizona statutes that you've had within your authority all along. The first one is Arizona Revised Statutes 11823. With full consent of this board, you can declare Mojave County as a guaranteed assured water required for those subdivisions that the gentleman talked about, for those housing developments that you can require that they have to submit assured water supply. Now, you don't do that because it will, of course, affect development, because there is no part of Mojave County that has any assured water supply. But this is the most critical piece of economic development for Mojave County. You already know that we do not have the water to sustain the development that we have currently. Why are you making
Your
policy?
time has expired, ma'am.
Why are you making policy
time has expired, ma'am.
when you know that we
Your
do
time
not
has
have
expired, ma'am.
the water to sustain
Time
it?
has expired, ma'am. Thank you.
It's very interesting
Time has
that
expired,
you allow
ma'am.
people to speak when it is something that you agree
Your time
with.
has expired, ma'am.
Thank you.
Katrina Callahan. Jennifer Esposito's on deck.
Hello, my name is Katerina Callahan, and to reiterate on the subject of abortion rights, I would like to draw a highlight to one aspect that I think is the most important aspect regarding this is, aside from the philosophical debate of where life begins, which is a subjective one, the laws in this country are for bodily autonomy, as stated by McFall versus Schimpf of 1978. A person cannot be compelled to participate in medical treatment to save another person's life. And that, aside from any emotional regard that you have on a subjective debate, is the law of this country. I'd like to also bring up that according to a recent Pew Research study, 61% of American adults are in favor of upholding abortion rights. And with that in mind, I implore you guys to act on behalf of our favor and speak out when these issues come up for us with the same amount of fervor that you did in regards to the mask mandate when your reasoning was bodily autonomy. I would like you to draw that connection and make the same thought process when voting in response to anything that comes about from what's going on currently in our society. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, ma'am. Jennifer Esposito and Jeff Esposito is on deck.
Jennifer Esposito, Kingman. Apparently I can't even take one meeting off. I feel like I need to babysit you guys. Like, I do have a life besides micromanaging the actions that this board is taking. Aside from that, let me just briefly remind the anti-fetus crowd that the state line to California and Nevada is very, very close. Quick drive. That's why we have states' rights. That's why the court was correct in putting it back to the states, because you could drive all kinds of places. Aside from that, back to business. At the last meeting, you guys criminalized animal kindness. I mean, it was bad enough that 1,109 burros were documented to be abused in this county, and you had no problem with that. No problem at all. No resolution to just even a letter of rebuke and reprimand to the Bureau of Land Management. But now, we're in a horrible drought. There is no forage for the cows and the donkeys. Hay has gone from $16 a bale to $26 a bale. I'm surprised there's anyone who can actually afford to buy hay to feed to the cows. I know I can't. But let me tell you a little something about free-range cattle, because I own 10 acres that I can't afford to fence the entire 10 acres. Free-range cattle, when they're hungry, when they're thirsty, will go where they want and take what they want. Now, when you slaughter a cow for food, what do? The ranchers bring it back in and they finish it. What do they finish it with? Hay. The same hay that you've now criminalized people at large giving to them. Now, it's not just cows and donkeys that come into, residential areas when they're hungry and thirsty. There's a mountain lion that was caught recently on camera in the Wallapai, what was it, Lazy YU or something? Okay, that happens every time there's a drought. So now, apparently, if I feed my animals and the wind, which never stops blowing in Golden Valley, blows the hay out of my corral into the yard and the cows eat it, that's a crime. I mean, I have never heard of anything so incredibly stupid and absurd as criminalizing kindness to animals in a severe situation. And yet, you passed that. Not only that, you made it a crime that, like, if Granny accidentally is negligent in making sure the screen door is shut tightly and the Chihuahua gets out and bites the mailman, that's a crime too. I sat and thought about it. What has this board actually done that was a positive and good thing? The only thing you guys did was repeal all the baloney you had in your animal control ordinance and go back to align it with state law. Why did you do that? Because I pointed out to you, you had unconstitutional, absurd provisions in your animal control ordinance. And what do you do last time? You come back and add more absurd, stupid baloney back into your animal control ordinance. I mean, cows have two stomachs. This isn't like feeding my pony where I shouldn't change his hay, or even my dog would get the runs if I change the diet. Cows have two stomachs. They can eat whatever's given to them. But making it a crime to feed any animal, or if the donkey comes and drinks the water, now somebody's going to say, oh, I'm watering the cows. Ridiculous. Shame on you.
Thank you, ma'am. Jeff Esposito and Peter Rax is on deck.
Good morning. It has been 3 months since this board was apprised of the appalling condition of the county park named Neil Butler on Jagerson and Bank Avenues outside of Kingman. It is an embarrassment. Nothing has been done. It is in Wilma's jurisdiction. Is something going to be done? It has also been 3 months since the board was made aware of the horrendously unsafe condition on Bank Street going north of the Third World Park. Nothing has been done. It is in both Wilma and Travis's jurisdiction. Is something going to be done? You people need to take a drive up the north-south corridor of Kingman, because Stockton Hill zigzags all over the place. Take a drive and look at the condition of that park and look at the condition of that road. It's not a road. Oh, let's go, Brandon.
Thank you, sir. Peter Rax. Supervisor Bishop's on deck.
Hi. First of all, I would like to tell you that I really appreciate this whole setup over here is deserve appreciation. Thank you very much. I know it's hard. I've been keeping it away, keep my mouth shut for the past couple of days. Even when I disagreed, say something. I appreciate you folks. Thank you. The thing is, there's a little minor details been going out when I would go with the thing, crime wave. Crime wave, but it's a little minor thing, no big thing. It's a abating crime wave over here from the federal government, and it's been going on. I don't like it. I don't think you like it. And I think, but you are so professionally nice been handling it. But I would ask you very much, please don't let it getting screwed up. I was dealing with quite a bit back in my California area, because I thought, hey, I just keep my mouth shut and think, and you guys doing great. But it's very hard to keep it as good as what you've been doing. I want to thank you. But be careful, because one of the first things is abating crime wave. That's what's going on in the professions. But you folks are good. I appreciate it, but keep it in mind, because that is not doing it for your pleasure. So I just thank you very much. I respect you for it. If I would give you any little kind of hassle, it's just that to make it better. I used to do this quite a bit down the street, down past California. And can be nasty and stupid. Please, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And I can pick you a little bit maybe, but thank you very much. And I want to tell you that I appreciate it and hope you guys maintain it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The magazine right here so they can see what you were showing.
I'm not going to give him my...
No, it goes right, see, it goes so everybody can see what you're talking about. There you go.
But they're going to be real smart now, my God. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. Somebody tells me what to do and what not to do, you know. But thank you very much, folks. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Bishop has a call to the public to read.
Thank you, Chairman Gold. I was contacted by Randy Glacier of Meadview. He's one of my constituents, and he has a very active Facebook page where he keeps our residents in that area informed about South Cove. So he says, let me start out by saying that I am well versed in the Colorado water issue and drought, along with the extreme decisions facing the state of Arizona conserving water and finding water. On another note, there is an issue brewing that gains little attention. That is regaining boat launching access for the people of Arizona on Lake Mead. Business and marinas are suffering a slow, painful death. I'm hoping the state of Arizona will get serious and immediately direct funding for South Cove and Temple Bar to get these two, and as our only Arizona ramps reopen. The Arizona people deserve it, and NPS should make it happen. The Arizona spending budget was just approved, but I see nothing addressing this. NPS says they can't afford the high cost with limited government funding or budget cuts. Money needs to be earmarked only to be used at South Cove and Temple Bar. Otherwise, it gets squandered elsewhere. Regina Cobb met with NPS last week, but NPS wants to wait until the water stops dropping. That most likely will be many, many years away. I have an option on the table for getting South Cove launching going again and spoke with NPS on this, but it needs state funding assistance now. NPS not interested in spending money. Things take a long time to get done, so starting now is a key factor. I have hope someone hears the Arizona people, but seeing the politics and issues in general is doubtful anything soon. This year, 4th of July, was the worst I've ever seen in Meadview and Lake Mead as far as visitors spending money or coming in for the holiday. It was almost like a ghost town where normally you see boats in every driveway. At least 15 homes have gone up for sale in the last 60 days, and many more are expected. For a small community, that's unacceptable. The lake is a huge part of Meadview and Arizona's boating, professional fishing, and recreation communities. Will this fall on deaf ears or just kick the can down the road? Who will step up and get us funding to get lake access opened again and break through the political red tape? That's from Randy Glasser in Meadview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor. Presentation. We have a presentation of service awards facilitated by Human Resources.
Oh, I got back to read them, don't go far. Excuse me, Supervisors, Chairman Gould, would you like to come up and meet the service award recipients, please?
Apparently I'm going by myself.
No.
Going down there?
Yeah. Did you want to go for all three of you?
Hi, Management Authors. Amelia, don't go far. Do you want me to read this first?
Yes.
All right, so good morning, Chairman Gould, members of the board. So Mojave County would like to officially recognize our employees' years of service through the Service Award Program. Without these dedicated employees, we would not be able to stand behind our mission statement and serve the citizens as efficiently and effectively as we do. For 2021, there are 135 employees being awarded for their service to Mojave County. This morning, we're going to recognize 13. There were 61 who served 5 years of service, 28 who served 10 years of service, 21 with 15 years of service, 12 with 20 years of service, 8 serving 25 years of service, and also 5 who have served 30 years of service. So this morning, we're going to recognize those employees in attendance for the 15, 20, 25, and 30 years of continuous service to Mojave County. The Board of Supervisors of Mojave County Management would like to thank all of our employees for everything they've done through their years of service and for their ongoing commitment to our success. Thank you for making each day of work something we can all be proud of. For those 13 that are in attendance today, please wait until your name is called and then come forward. After all recognition is given, we would like all recipients to meet over at the rock wall or right here in front of us for a group picture. And we want to thank the board members for those who are willing to stand up and be part of this with us. So thank everybody for their dedication to Mojave County. This morning, we are going to start off with Mr. John Barger and his 20 years of service.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Take a picture. Okay. Next up, Mr. Weldon Booth with 30 years of service. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Next, Miss Stephanie Crest with 15 years of service. Congrats.
You're gonna spoil again. You know, you don't have to spoil.
All right, Mr. Ron Gillio, 25 years of service.
Way to go, Ron.
Keith Hill, 20 years of service. Mr. Joe Kessler, 30 years of service. Judy Lackey, 15 years of service. Congrats, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Brenda Melodia, 30 years of service. Sorry. Shelley Morris, 20 years of service. Now, she warned me she might not be able to make it, but she was going to try, so. Let's see, we have Karen Moulton, 15 years of service. Michael Ross, 15 years of service. Carolyn Spear, 15 years of service. Is our last one?
Yep.
5 more. And last but not least, Miss Connie Wennerstrom with 15 years of service.
While you're up here, you want to, well, we can stand right here if that would be easier. Just so we can take it.
If I can get those who are in attendance, if you would come on back up so that way we can do a group picture. Please.
It's like, okay.
Come on, kids.
I'm sorry. Everybody get your pictures? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, supervisors.
I received a message from Supervisor Lingenfelter that he wanted to thank all of you for your service also. Yearly update, legislative update by Craig Sullivan, Executive Director, County Supervisors Association of Arizona. Mr. Sullivan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you very much for this opportunity to visit with you. I'm going to try to pull up my PowerPoint. Thank you very much.
Screen working?
Perfect. Well, as this comes up, Mr. Chairman and members, I hope you all had a wonderful Independence Day, an Independence Day long weekend. And again, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be with you. For Ms. Anderson and the record, I'm Craig Sullivan with the County Supervisors Association, but more importantly, I have my colleague Vanessa Fielder here with me today. We were really thrilled to make the trip up here today. Our purpose is to provide our annual report of the County Supervisors Association, talk a little bit about some of the work that we've done over the last year, and in particular talk a little bit about the state legislature. But just to begin with, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of this board for your involvement in the association. We are very grateful for the work that you all do with us. It makes us a better intergovernmental office supporting all 15 counties, and I really want to thank you all for that involvement. And to Supervisor Bishop, thank you for serving as president of our association over the last year. It's been great to work with you and all the extra work that you've done on behalf of the association and with your colleagues from across the state. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Craig. It's been an honor.
It has been a lot of fun. We've done a lot of work. And Supervisor Angus, thank you for serving on our Legislative Policy Committee, which I know consumes every Friday morning through the legislature. And to both of you, thanks so much for all that you did there. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Elters and his professional staff here, because when we do our work to support the counties, the quality of input that we get from Mojave County professional staff is fantastic. And so I just want to acknowledge them publicly and thank you for your leadership and for their involvement with us as well. The PowerPoint that I have for you will walk through a couple of key things that I'd like to share with you. I'm not going to go with everything in detail, but I will stop if there's something you want to explore further. We did email the packet to Supervisor Lingenfelter and Supervisor Johnson as well, since they're working remotely today. But just to begin with, let me talk a little bit about who the association is. The County Supervisors Association is an intergovernmental collaboration of the 15 counties, and what we focus on is creating a forum for supervisors and professional staff to come together and talk about issues that are important to county government and serving constituents, putting together high quality information to inform decision making, and then serving as an intergovernmental liaison with key agencies that impact your operations. And that becomes important because, as you know, working in a county, there are parties outside of this county that have significant input on the policies that you all implement, and you know them well: the state legislature, federal government, state agencies, and of course the court system. So that's our purpose in bringing everybody together in an intergovernmental capacity to try to improve government and improve decision making. Every supervisor in the state's on our board. We do have two committees. I mentioned Ms. Bishop's leadership on our executive committee and Ms. Angus' role in our legislative policy committee, but we welcome everybody to our table as we do our job. I mentioned that we serve as a forum for supervisors, so what I put for you here is just a little bit about that. We bring in regularly elected officials and agency heads, policy experts to talk with county officials from across the state and dialogue with all of you. We also identify priority issues to roundtable, and you can see some of the key ones that have emerged over the last year. Issues related to affordable housing, short-term rentals, opioid litigation, employee compensation, as we're dealing with a lot of vacancies across government and in all sectors, quite frankly, as well as dealing with things like water issues, which has been very important for a lot of our our rural areas. We also meet regularly with what we call affiliate organizations, and this is where we really leverage the expertise of the county managers or the finance directors or the planning directors to just really make sure that we're putting together the best high quality information that we can. I wanted to highlight for you briefly our data collection capacity, and this is the area of the operation that Ms. Fielder manages. And what we do is develop time series data and information from multiple data sets that are available on our website to you and your professional staff, and you can cover any number of issues. You can look for county comparisons of tax rates, expenditure limits, employment data, as well as real-time revenue collections that are coming in, and you can look at comps across all 15 counties. We also have on our platform data related to key cost drivers. So you're able to evaluate cost drivers that all counties are dealing with, things like the mandated payments to the healthcare system, all techs. We've been monitoring in particular pension health because it's been a priority for us to get a better handle of the public safety pension programs and other issues that are all on our website. And all of this data, and it is a mountain of data, really just translates into better information that we can bring to the table with lawmakers as well as to counties. But I want to bridge a little bit into the legislative piece. So let me just do that for you over the next couple of slides. First of all, it was a long session. The session went about 166 days. It ended late on an early Saturday morning, actually, two weekends ago. And a big part of that was because there was a lot of money on the table, small margins in the majority, and it just dragged out and out and out. Where we are now is we are going into implementation mode, and so we are categorizing all of the bills that passed by policy area, and we'll provide a summary to your professional staff, because as counties, we all have to look at what those bills are and start implementing them. The governor has until the 7th of July to act on the final bills that are on his desk. And bills that do not have an emergency date will go into law on September 25th, or 24th, I'm sorry. So they're a little bit downstream. In terms of legislative context coming in, you can see major items that were key in the governor's state of the state and among major policymakers' platforms. But what really drove it, as I mentioned, was the thin majority. Usually, the majority party, which are Republicans, like to do major policy and budgets within their majority. This year, since there were no votes to give, it empowered each member of the majority. And as a consequence, it got a little dicey as they were trying to put the budget together. And so that took a long time for them to do and really dragged the process out. I'd like to talk a little bit about the budget before we transition into some bills. And I wanted to give you a big picture snapshot of what the budget looks like. And as I say this, Chairman Gould, I'm mindful that when you were in the legislature, the budget was probably about $8 billion, and I'm just ballparking it. It's grown a little bit since then. And so what you see here is what the budget looks like now.
So are you blaming it on me because I'm not there holding the budget down?
Every observer can draw their own conclusion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
But I thought this was very interesting because what you see in this table is that the total revenues have grown to about close to $18 billion in fiscal year 22, and expenditures are breaching the $13 billion mark. But if you look at the ending balance line as well as the ongoing the structural balance line, you can see that this budget moving out into fiscal year 2025 has very little margin for error. There's a projected ending cash balance of $26 million. That's really de minimis on a budget this size, or a structural balance of about $50 million. And so projections really need to roll out. The key takeaways, they basically spent the resources that they had. Where did they spend those? There was a property tax cut of about 41 cents. This is the last vestige of the state property tax that they're eliminating, and that is about $337 million of revenues. They spent in one-time spending over the next 3 fiscal years, $5.4 billion, and they spent $1.6 billion in new ongoing spending going forward, and we'll show you a little bit about where that came out. These are the major spending items. So as you can see, and this is where the conflict in the caucus was, right? How much to put into education. And so the lion's share of the resources went to K-12 education. And these totals are 3-year totals that I'm showing you here. But K-12 education, public safety, health and welfare, that's largely the Medicaid system and long-term care. Debt reduction, about $1 billion in debt reduction. Water infrastructure, about $1 billion there. And transportation, about $1 billion in that. So these are huge numbers that we've never seen, or I've never seen, in my career, that landed in this budget. This shows you a little bit of a snapshot of the transportation map. So these are the projects that are coming on. You can see that they're spread across the state. The lion's share of resources for transportation, and there was about $1 billion allocated, are going to the high growth areas in Maricopa and Pinal. But there are some resources that are in this region, I-95, some planning studies related out in Lake Havasu and others. We can give you specific detail for every county on this in our report that we have for you as well. A couple of key touch points that I'd like to talk to you about. These are some issues we were working on. The DJC cost shift is not relevant to Mojave County. Your delegation helped relieve the rural counties of that, so I'm still working on it for Maricopa and Pima. We did notice that there were significant cost drivers that were coming online in the state budget, and I'll show you those in a moment. But in response to that, we put on the table in April a request for state mandate relief. So we were basically saying, if you're going to raise mandates over here, let's get rid of some old mandates or that are still on the books. And we looked at 3. One was related to the JP cost sharing, and they did address that, and so that saves the county some money. But we also wanted to get rid of 2 legacy healthcare payments. Those were not adopted in the final budget, but they were things that we thought were fair as we deal with other costs on the other side, which, as I mentioned, I'll show you more of that in a moment. We did secure a grant program ongoing for state aid to juvenile dependency, and this is due directly to Mojave County. You brought this forward for us to work on. Regina Cobb and Leo Biasucci championed it in the House and got it in the budget, and so we're grateful for that. And it is ongoing, so it's not just a one-time grant program. Curiously, they've maintained a policy of what they call pre-funding probation. And what this means is that the state is setting a percentage increase for state-funded probation officers, and then saying if the county provides a pay increase above what they've pre-funded, it will be a liability of the county general fund. This is a real problem, and it's something that we're going to have to iron out. We were asking them to put specific language in the budget that would protect the county general fund and to sufficiently fund probation. Their choice was to adopt the recommendation that came out of the governor's budget office at 2.5% and to not provide our protective language. So I offer this to you just in that as we see more and more of the cost of the state court system coming into the county, here's one that's very small. It's de minimis right now, but if we don't fix it going forward, it's just going to grow. And so that's something that we need to work on this summer. I mentioned earlier that we put on the table some mandate relief items, and those were because we saw these 3 items coming in. So counties are administrative arms of the state. You have statutory cost sharing for certain programs, like the long-term care program that's run by the state, as well as for judges' salaries. So what the state did make adjustments to each of these, and so Mojave County is going to see an increase in its share to the state long-term care system of about $1.3 million. Now, what's driving that? What's driving that are a couple of things. The enhanced federal relief is falling off, so we're going to have to pay more now that the feds are pulling back. And because of issues in the hospital and provider community, the legislature is raising provider rates to deal with workforce shortages and the fact that they did not see adjustments for many years. And so this is just kind of coming online. And if you look at the copper line that I have here in your chart, you can see for many years where the provider rate, where county costs were kind of flat and the provider rates were basically held or decreased. And now you can see all of this rebounding. This really matters because it puts pressure on your local financing. And so we'll need to be evaluating that going forward. And the second piece was about the Superior Court judge salaries. They did provide pay raises for Superior Court judge salaries. That necessarily provides raises for justices of the peace. It's a cost share that the counties have. That's a smaller impact to the county, but it's one of the reasons why the state increased their commitment to the justices of the peace when we pointed out that they ought to do a little more cost sharing in the court system. And then the final piece I'll mention is that DOR has put in place or is purchasing some new software to do a better job on tax collections, and the state is billing the cities, the counties, and some special districts to fund that. That'll impact Mojave County about $33,000.
So does that help their operation or just their collection?
Is it? Thank you for that. I didn't know offhand, but it's an administration software, is the way we understand it. Yeah, it's just a tax collection program. It's not an auditing program.
Okay.
If that
they changed the password to retailers constantly.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
We can give you they have a little comment box that I can send you the link on.
I'm sure they're awaiting my comment.
Yeah. But what we'll do, because I need to get you a better answer on that, we'll put a little email together about what specifically they're doing with that and then the time frame, and we'll get that to you. Happy to. This next slide are just some items that are related to the counties that I wanted to flag for you because they are relevant. First of all, the legislature put in place a one-time stipend for law enforcement at the county level. And so Mojave County will see a share of these resources that will be controlled by your sheriff to support recruitment and retention within your sheriff's office. They also provided $10 million for diversion program grants for rural county prosecutors, and they funded the second year of the Coordinated Reentry Planning Services program at $7 million. And this is a program that Supervisor Angus and Regina Cobb have been working on and secured, and so it is continuing. And my understanding is that Mojave County will receive a third of this here, $2.3 million, absolutely. And so that's a big deal. They also put a lot of resources, and we were grateful for this, in cybersecurity grants. They're really trying to elevate their local support for cybersecurity, and there was a lot of money allocated for border-related matters that our border counties will be able to avail themselves of. And for our forested counties, the Department of Forestry and Fire Management will see about $70 million that they'll be able to use to support fire mitigation, fire prevention, and of course, fire response. And as you know, former Supervisor David Tenney is a state forester, and he has really elevated the support coming out of that agency to counties that have forest fires. They also allocated some dollars for election-related appropriations, and we'll be looking at specific details on this, but there are resources for improving registration roll accuracy for counties above 200,000, which Mojave falls into, as well as secure ballot boxes in some counties. I think they were targeting pilot projects in Cochise, Yuma, and maybe Pinal. And then, of course, some resources for secure ballot paper. Transitioning away from the budget, I wanted to highlight some of the bills that we worked on at the request of our member counties, some of which came from Mojave. We had 5 bills that were viable and we introduced into the process. 4 of them were enacted into law. House Bill 2012 came from Mojave County. This improves the threshold, increases the threshold for forming a special district. And so we believe it'll improve local collaboration that before supporting, creating these districts. And I mentioned earlier Mr. Biasucci's leadership on juvenile dependency. So we were pleased with that result. A big part of what we do is just responding to the hundreds of bills that touch the county that come into the process. And this, Supervisor Angus, is how you spent your Friday working with us on a lot of these bills. But we were pretty pleased with our ability to amend bills that we were concerned with or provide information that led to the defeat of bills that we had problems with. The policy areas we work in are vast, and I just wanted to flag this for you because counties have so many touch points that we have to go from tax policy, pension policy, criminal justice, public health, all the way over to elections. And so it keeps our team busy. The following slides are all bills that have been, or slides that touch on bills that have been enacted. It won't surprise you that the election conversation was significant at the Capitol this year. There were about 140 bills related to election reform. Several did pass and go to the governor. Those items dealt with voter registration, verification of citizenship, and improving those processes. Probably very importantly as well is they raised the threshold for doing recounts from a fairly small amount a little higher. And so there'll be more work involved in that, but I think it's important to make sure that recounts are done and people feel comfortable in those recounts. Very importantly, one item they referred to the ballot is related to voter identification on mail-in ballots. So this will be a question before the voters in November, and the policy would be to put your social security number, last four, or your driver's license on your envelope affidavit as you mail your ballot back in if you do that. And so they referred that to the ballot, I'm sorry, to give the voters a choice on that issue, and it'll be there in November. There was still a lot of work on the COVID response. Most of this was like cleanup from policies last year that got thrown out in a constitutional issue that was unrelated to these items. But they did pass laws that are related to board authority during emergencies and the ability to close businesses, the executive authority, the power of the governor, and the mechanisms to bring the legislature in if we do have another prolonged emergency like this. They protected parental rights as it relates to vaccinations and school immunizations, and they prohibited local governments and schools from mandating masks going forward. A few policy items. I'll just touch on a couple here briefly. I did want to highlight water. So they did put $1 billion into a water infrastructure effort. The idea was to create a water authority. They expanded the existing water infrastructure finance authority and put $1 billion in there. There's also a revolving fund that's available for doing rural water infrastructure projects. And there was a grant program that was put in the bill of $200 million to provide resources to do more conservation. And so this, I think, is just an initial step as what needs to be more and more of a focus on water regulation as we go forward. And I did want to commend Supervisor Ligenfelter for all the work he's been doing in that space, including in partnership with other supervisors. It's just an unfortunate fact that counties do not have tools to really get after this, and so we need the legislature. But the awareness that you have brought to the state capitol and to the public has been profound, and it would not be there or as highly salient if not for your local leadership. And so though the bills that were introduced this year were not successful, I think the effort to raise awareness was definitely effective in getting the word out, getting more sympathetic ears, and educating, and your consultants with High Ground Public Affairs are doing a great job in there. And we did see some changes to park model statutes as well as vacation rentals. And I don't know if that's a huge issue in this region, but there is some enhanced regulatory authority as it relates to vacation rentals. The final slide on policy that I wanted to touch on, I mentioned that the state reduced a property tax, 41 cents, and that the state will no longer have a property tax. They also made significant changes to the commercial assessment ratio, where they have phased down the burden on businesses significantly from 25% assessment ratio many years ago, now down on a trajectory of 15%. And the only reason why that's relevant to counties is that we're heavily reliant on the property tax. And so as that changes over time, you'll see that in your assessment rolls. And when we saw this phase down previously, we know it put a lot of upward pressure on property taxes at the local level or impacted available resources. So just be aware of that, and you'll need to monitor that as it's phased in over the next 6 years. And they also reduced and accelerated depreciation for locally assessed business personal property. On the pension piece, I did want to applaud Vanessa on my team for the work she does with us on that. We spend a ton of time on the pension problem, largely trying to make sure that the PSPRS Board of Trustees has good input on how best to manage the system in a cost-effective way. We did not have that voice many years ago when we watched the system increase in costs. We've invested in being there because of the magnitude of it. The legislature, too, is looking at these pension systems, and they did put a lot of money into pension pay down. But what we have to pay attention to, and Supervisor Angus, you and I talk about this all the time, we don't want to go backwards. We've done all these reforms, all these cost containments in the pension systems, and as the system gets better funded, there will be an inertial tendency for various interest groups to try to expand those benefits again. And I really think it's important that no changes are made without solid analytics behind it, and that's the role that Vanessa is providing in our organization. And then finally, a few things coming on the ballot, a couple that I'll flag for you here. They're going to ask the voters whether they want to have a lieutenant governor. Again, we've seen that kind of thing come before, but probably most importantly, the fire districts were successful at getting on the ballot a request to raise a sales tax for fire districts. And so know that that's out there.
I saw the petition.
Now, where we are in our work plan is just doing the postmortem on the legislative session. So we will provide your team with reports, summaries, our finance officer's guide, and we'll be doing affiliate briefings with professional staff to educate them about all these bills that are online and make sure that we're implementing them. What I wanted to ask for your consideration is please work with us on any policy items you'd like to see in the next session. If you could please get any requests to us by mid-August, and then we'll process those through the fall and try to get them positioned. And as a final note, I did just want to applaud your legislative delegation and the communication you have with them. I think there is no more difficult task at the legislature than to be a rural legislator. And I think Sonny Borelli and Regina Cobb and Leo Biasucci do a great job and are always very available, even when they don't agree with what we're putting on the table, but they're always very available, and it's because you all have a lot of credibility and partnership with them in the work you do for this region. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for all the time. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Sullivan? Supervisor Angus.
I don't have any questions, but I want to thank you and can't convey how important it is for us to be in contact so we can fight for our county local control, which is what CSA is all about. And I want to thank you personally. Sometimes things change minute by minute, and Craig and his team always keep us up to date. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Supervisor Bishop.
Yes, I'd like to just echo what Supervisor Angus said. We really appreciate having CSA in our court. We have regular conversations, we have monthly meetings, we have LPC meetings, we go over and speak to our legislators, and we sit around once a month with other county supervisors and hash things out and try to keep this state running smoothly as possible. So I know now is this time where CSA kind of goes dark, and Mr. Sullivan will be traveling around the state to visit other counties like he's doing with us this morning, and I intend to accompany him in those visits as much as possible. So I look forward to the next month. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Vanessa. And thank you to all of your staff. They've been wonderful.
Thank you.
Supervisor Angus.
One more thing. I want to thank Supervisor Bishop. She was the president this year. She did a fantastic job. Showed up everywhere. It's a big honor for having it for our county, and I personally think you did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this is the first time Mojave County has had a president on the board since, is it 1980?
I think so. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Supervisor Johnson, any questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sullivan, on your tax policy, the reducing of the commercial assessment ratio from 16 to 15, we just passed that on to the homeowners?
Supervisor Johnson, yeah, that to the extent that rates are adjusted, that mix has shifted to the homeowners. So new growth will be more laid on the homeowners, and if you are to raise a rate, that will be borne more by the homeowners. Now, I do have to share that in the legislative lens, they did increase the homeowners rebate, which provides a subsidy to homeowners for their school taxes. And I think it was one of the reasons why they felt it important to eliminate the state equalization rate, that 41-cent rate that they eliminated in this budget.
Right, but like you mentioned, they've gone from 25 down to 15, and all that's been pushed over onto the homeowner. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Lingenfelter, questions, comments?
Thank you, Chairman Gould. I have no questions. However, I just want to say thank you to Craig and his professional staff. Craig, I've known you since 2014, and you've just consistently been very professional in your advocacy. I appreciate everything that you're doing for Mojave County. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure, sir. Thank you.
I believe when I was in the Senate, when we reduced the commercial property tax rate, the original plan was to backfill that money with income tax money to the local taxing authorities, but I do not believe that that ever happened.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that was conveniently left on the table.
Strange.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Thank you all for the time. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
And Vanessa, thanks for your hard work. Consent agenda. Following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion of said items unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Supervisor Bishop, do you have anything to remove?
I do not.
Supervisor Angus?
Nothing this morning.
Supervisor Johnson?
Nothing, sir.
Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Nothing this morning, Mr. Chairman.
I forget if I had anything. Number 11. And number 19. And that's it. And 20.
Motion to approve consent agenda minus items 11, 19, and 20.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item 11. It's a health department issue. Denise.
Chairman Gould, members of the board.
I'm curious, how do people get put into this program?
These are often referred to by the medical professionals, and they are part of they've been born early, prematurely, or high-risk pregnancies.
So it's coming from the health providers, and we're not going out and investigating people in their homes to identify high-risk people.
No, we are not. And this is a
Which I think we do have that program, but
this is a voluntary program, so people choose to participate in it.
Thank you. Questions of Denise? Hearing none. Thank you, ma'am.
Motion to approve item 11.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item 19. Karen.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What's going on here?
So this is a project that we got approved by the board for the juvenile detention center security cameras. And although they included, I gotta look at the item, although they included their, I think it was travel costs and direct costs in their initial discussion with us, it didn't get included on the quote that the board approved. And so we're just coming back to the board to say this was something that was originally anticipated. It just didn't make it into the request initially before the board. I know Director Latosky can speak to the project more than I probably could.
So it would be good to hear from Mr. Latosky, you say?
It may help. He may be able to answer more questions on the technical side of it.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Director Latosky.
Good morning, Chairman Gould, members of the board. This happens to be a FY22 capital project that will just be rolling over the funds to FY23. So the project is predicated on the replacement of the video surveillance system due to it's reaching its end of service life. And as Director Acton pointed out, this is just an oversight with regard to the contractor not including their travel expenses. They're based in Tempe, by the way, not including their travel expenses in the quote that was presented to the board, but it was negotiated beforehand and expected, of course, with the travel from Tempe.
Thank you, Director. Questions for Director Latosky? Hearing none, thank you, sir. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say nay. You guys appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item 20. Ms. Dowson.
Wow. Good morning, Tanya Dawson, Mojave County taxpayer. I just thought people might like to see how their tax dollars are being spent. I believe a lot of people are not aware. In addition to paying our own gas, food, housing, and our personal expenses, the government is spending our hard-earned money to rehab people's privately owned homes. Here's one rehab for $38,000. Whoops. Here's another one we paid for rehab for $35,000. And this is stuff like air conditioners, heaters, windows, kitchens, bedrooms, bathrooms. Here's one for $45,000. Here's another one for $28,000. So these are community development block grants by HUD. And HUD localizes the United Nations Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Let's see if I get that there better. There we go. So this project would be consistent with the United Nations Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goal number 11. So here's their little chart of goals. And so that would be number 11.
That's the HUD goals or the UN goals?
Well, they're pretty much, HUD is on board with the Sustainable Development Agenda. These here are the United Nations.
Okay, so that's a UN piece of paper?
Yeah.
Copy of a UN piece of paper?
Yeah. But the UN does use HUD's information and they work together. So it's, so anyway, the goal number 11 that United Nations has is making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Affordable housing and property rehab and much more are included in this goal. So this is completely consistent with the United Nations Agenda 21. Unlike the United States, where our rights to life, liberty, and property are inherent and inalienable, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights says that our rights are granted by the United Nations Declaration, their Constitution, and their laws. The United Nations says people have the right to the fruits of someone else's labor in the form of food, clothing, housing, medical care, and social services. They believe those things are rights. They say that the rights bestowed by the United Nations may in no way be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. So anyway, just wanted to bring your attention to the Marxist agenda through HUD. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Smith, can you come down and explain the program?
Good morning, Chairman Gold, members of the board. Which specific questions would you like me to respond to?
Just a brief overview of the Community Development Block Grant Program, where they're doing housing rehabilitation and who qualifies and whatnot.
Sure, thank you. So the CBG program in regards to those housing loans, it's normally for people that are disabled, seniors, or the people with children under 18. When they do those homes, we actually apply for grants every year that come through the federal government, and then they're passed to us, and then we actually administer those. There's very specific guidelines. Normally, they're somewhere between 30 and 50% of the AMI, the area median income, and those are the homes that we actually go out and do. And then from there, what happens is a 15-year lien is placed upon that home, and after that 15 years, the lien then is removed from the home. But during that time, if they sell the home, or anything happens during that time where the loan is no longer in place, that money then would come back and we would put that back into the program, and then we would keep continuing facilitating home rehabs. And it's for people that have, like, let's say their windows are broke out of their mobile home. We do a lot of mobile homes or other homes just in general, and if they need those repairs done, we facilitate that. So it's safety and health.
So if, say, a client was elderly and they passed away during that 15-year period, that lien would still stays on the title for the home, correct?
That is correct, Chairman Gould.
Questions of Mr. Smith? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve item 20.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. So I got a request to move item 47 forward, so we'll go ahead to item 47 at this time. County Manager.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. Item 47 is related to a letter that went from Mojave County signed by our board to the Arizona Department of Water Resources related to a request to designate the Walpi Valley groundwater basin as subsequent irrigation non-expansion area. This item is on the agenda for really two reasons. Reason one is for discussion by the board, so we can go over the letter, the intent, and the public is aware of what we're requesting. And second is to ratify the letter that was sent in from Mojave County and signed by all board members. Again, to ensure that that letter represents the board as intended. And with that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions, or Supervisor Lingenfelter, who's on the call, I'm sure can provide some feedback whatever is the wishes of the board.
Questions for the county manager? Supervisor Bishop.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to remind this board that, we've asked for this designation twice before for an INA designation. And this board has sent letters to the Director of Water Resources, ADWR, and the director has come back both times saying that we don't qualify for an INA, but the last time that we wrote to the director, we identified that the Wallapai Basin has 3 subbasins. And with those 3 subbasins, the northernmost subbasin, it's called the Gregg subbasin, seems to be a little bit different than the other 2 subbasins as far as depletion of water, and it has stayed constant and is not depleting its water according to ADWR. So we did request at the last letter that we remove the Gregg Basin from our request, and this board voted to approve that. And then this letter, it has no indication as to requesting that same from ADWR. So the Gregg subbasin is included in this current letter, and I think we have members from the public that are here to speak and request that we include the removal of the Gregg subbasin once again from our request. So with that, I think Mr. Barbarish is here to make that request, and I don't believe that anyone has spoken to him, so I would like to give him time to plead with us. His case, his farm is the only farm that's located within this upper basin. He owns most of the acreage in the area, and he doesn't plan to farm it all. He has other plans that he'll tell us about, but the water withdrawals that he uses doesn't have any effect in the supply for Kingman, Meadview, Dolan Springs, White Hills, or any other communities. So he's kind of out there on an island per se. And I see Mr. Barbridge is at the podium, and the chairman is gone. So I will act as the vice chair for now and allow Mr. Barbridge to address the board. Thank you, Mr. Barbridge, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Bishop, and thank you to the rest of the supervisors. Good morning. My name is Al Barbarich. I'm the owner of the orchard at 22583 North Pierce Ferry Road, which I've put up a map here. Hopefully that, let me straighten that, that's better. You may be unfamiliar with where that is exactly. Here's Kingman down here. And the Gregg subbasin where my orchard is up here. Again, it's approximately the intersection of Pierce Ferry Road and Gregg's Hideout Road, and it's in Supervisor Bishop's District 4. I'm here today to make a request that impacts jobs in Mojave County. We have a family-run operation at the orchard. And as Supervisor Bishop indicated, I'm making the same request that I made 2 years ago, and the supervisors unanimously agreed to modify the language in the request to ADWR to remove the Gregg subbasin from the request for an INA to ADWR. I haven't seen the text of the letter that is going out or has gone out. I'm not really sure. But my request today is to remove that subbasin for the following reasons. There have been quite a few studies done recently, both by Matrix New World and USGS. The Matrix report indicated far in excess of 200-year water supply up there, using extraordinarily aggressive assumptions on the future water use. Far beyond anything we're currently using or ever would use. And again, I'm the only one farming up there, and I'm the dominant landowner. The water use there has no impact whatsoever on the city of Kingman, Dolan Springs, Meadview, or White Hills, the surrounding towns. They all obtain their water from separate basins. There are no utilities in the area. We've been very responsible stewards of the land and the water. We've been transparent with our intentions and data requests that have come to us about what we're doing and what our future intentions are. We've gone above and beyond, I think, with our water conservation and recharge efforts. We spent considerable sums to put recharge basins on our farm, because where we can put water back into the ground and capture it from the surrounding BLM ground, we do that. Not because anybody told us to, but because we believe it's the right thing to do. I've summarized some of this stuff in my letter to you today, which I think you all should have a copy of. Again, this is a family-run operation, and including this in that request, which isn't, I don't think, justified by the scientific reporting that's been done. It'll cost jobs in Mojave County. So what I'm respectfully asking you to do is what the Board of Supervisors did 2 years ago, and exclude the Gregg subbasin from the INA request. I know this is a complex topic, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about where the basins lie and our land and that sort of thing. So,
questions for Mr. Babarich?
Chairman Gold,
Supervisor or Bishop.
I have a question. Is it true that you purchased property or own property that has an ADWR monitoring well on it with your permission?
Yeah, as I noted in my letters to you, ADWR contacted me not long ago, I believe it was last year, and requested that they be allowed to install their monitoring equipment on one of my wells there. It's directly on the farm, and it's denoted in the USGS report. In fact, this map here shows that well as this one right here. So they're currently monitoring that well, and this color code here shows that is in balance there, meaning that the natural recharge plus the recharge that we're doing directly is in balance with the withdrawals, and it's actually slightly positive. And here's the agreement that I have with ADWR to allow them to monitor that well at their convenience. So again, we've been very transparent and accommodating to both the county and ADWR in requests that we've received from Representative Cobb and from supervisors. I think my cell phone's been made available personally to any and all of you, and I'm always happy to answer any questions. And the Schmidt family who runs this, I think there's 20 of them living out there on the farm currently with Steve and his wife and their 2 sons and their wives and the daughters and the husbands. They all work for us, and then we've got about 10 little grandkids running around too. There's a little schoolhouse they built on the farm that's the cutest thing you've ever seen, but they're homeschooling the kids out there, and it's a really neat family operation, and we don't want to see it have to stop, because again, that's not based on emotion or anything other than the science. That, you know, we chose this area. I own land, you know, throughout the county, and we chose this area because there's a hugely abundant subbasin right there, and that's borne out by the science. And the fact is that nobody else draws from that on a municipal level or on a utility level.
Okay, and then the water in that upper basin where your farm is, the unused water flows into Lake Mead, is my understanding.
Yeah, that's correct. What the hydrology shows is that water throughout the basin flows northward. So it's not as if it would otherwise flow south towards Kingman if we didn't use it for growing food.
Okay, and that's probably the reason that ADWR, in their response back to us, they point out that the Kingman area of the subbasin, the average total water level change was minus 3.2 foot. In the Wallapai subbasin, the water level change is minus 5.8 feet, but in the subbasin where your farm is, ADWR says there's no change in the average total water level. So I think that's partly due to your drip irrigation being used on the farm and your water catchments and recharge basins that you've voluntarily done yourself. So kudos to you. I appreciate all of your efforts, and I think you're a very responsible farmer. And that's all the questions that I have and comments.
Any further questions for Mr. Babarich? Supervisor Johnson or Lingenfelter? Hearing none. Thank you, sir.
No questions, Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor.
I do have a comment. Chairman Gold.
You can proceed, Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, sir. For those that are familiar with the irrigation expansion section of statute, they understand that this process is dictated by the most updated data you have in your possession. And Mojave County has been working with the City of Kingman and USGS since 2016, 2017. We have now very sophisticated water modeling tool. The data has changed. And then the other thing that the ADWR director looks at is the public comment period, but the letters and the comments that they receive when they hold those public meetings. Was the Vice Mayor of Kingman the last time that the County of Mojave requested a review, and they were pretty quickly shot down. But a lot has changed in a very short number of months when it comes to at least the Central Basin and then the Kingman subbasins. And the INA, this time, we're actually going to get a public comment period. We're going to have people that are in support of or against, writing letters, providing public testimony when they have that process here. And then it's also going to be decided upon the most recent data. So from what I've heard and from the information that I've seen regarding the basin that the gentleman is speaking to in the upper portion of the county, he probably doesn't have anything to worry about, because I think the ADWR director, his staff are going to be very comprehensive in their review of the most recent scientific data that is in the county's possession, in the USGS's possession, on top of the public comments. And if I had to guess, you're probably not going to get a lot of public comment in support of extending that INA to your area and your farm. So I appreciate your comments today from the gentleman, and I look forward to a really healthy and strong public participation period when this happens. We had an enormous public comment participation when we looked at the priority for Greenstone to Queen Creek. It was like 1,000 to 1 from what I understand from the ADWR. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Chairman Gould, could I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay.
Proceed.
Thank you, Supervisor Lingenfelter. Appreciate your comments there. And I would agree that in the actual process, it's unlikely that we would have a problem passing the test for an INA. However, just the request for it generates a lot of uncertainty and makes it difficult for us as owners and managers to plan for what we're doing. So that alone can cost jobs when we can't appropriately plan, and we think that we may be under scrutiny. And the other issue is that that I'm personally worried about is that the entire basin could be painted with the same broad brush. And they could say, well, you know, you don't have a problem here, but we're gonna enact an INA over the entire basin, even though we don't have any effect on the entire basin or municipal users of the water. So that's why I'm requesting that the Southern Greg subbasin be removed from the INA request. It's I think very, very clear that it's not supported by the data. So that's my respectful request to the board.
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask the gentleman, so an INA, when an INA is enabled, it prevents any additional acreage from being cultivated. So all of the acreage that you're currently cultivating is grandfathered in under an INA scenario. So are you saying that it's preventing your planning from cultivating and planting new acreage or drilling new wells? Or how exactly is the letter, which was not specific amongst the basins, the subbasins, excuse me, how is that letter interfering with your business operations right now?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And in my letter to the board today, I indicated that we currently have 1,777 acres planted. We would like to develop another 500 to 800 acres, depending on suitability evaluations. And that represents only about 10% of my additional property up there, and that's it. The rest of it just either isn't suitable or we have other potential uses for. So yes, to answer your question, that would prevent us from being able to plan any further development up there. And by the way, it's been assumed in the matrix and USGS reports, I believe, based on assessor data that since I have an agricultural operation and I own that additional property, that would all be farmed eventually, which is simply not the case. It's not even suitable for farming, the majority of it. And like I said, we're looking only to develop maybe another 10%. But taking that out of our planning process will cost jobs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you.
Supervisor Bishop.
I'd like to ask Mr. Barbridge, were you contacted for recent data to put into the matrix model that we just did? Did anybody contact you from the county or the state?
No, not for the matrix model, which I believe was completed in 2019. I think the only contact that I had from the county was one time from you, and I noted that in one of my letters back, that you just asked me just generally in a conversation about what we were doing, how much I had eventually planned to develop. But I think assumptions were made off of the county assessor's records of what I owned, that I would farm the entirety of it, which again is not the case. I never had the ambitions of being the world's or the county's largest farmer. That's not in our plans. So the only formal request that I have received was from Regina Cobb on her office last year, and I responded with a letter to that and to the inquiry form.
Okay, so
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
I appreciate Mr. Barbridge noting that during our Mojave County West Basin Water User Study Committee that we did send out a very comprehensive Excel spreadsheet to all the farmers. I can find that email if I needed to. And I do know that Mr. Barbridge did talk to us and provide information in 2021.
That's correct.
Supervisor Bishop.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the letter as written, excluding the Greg subbation from the letter.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered.
Thank you, Supervisor. I really appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to go back to the regular order. So item 33. Item 33 is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on item 33. Anyone here to testify on item 33? Anyone here to testify on item 33? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Gold, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item 34. Item 34 is a public hearing. Anyone here to testify on item 34? Don Lennox.
Good morning. My name is Don Lennox. I reside in Bullhead City, and I'm here to represent the properties up for rezone. Would like to give you a little bit of history. As our main farm grow location was an almond farm. It's 36 acres at the corner of Quartzsite Road and Sacramento Wash Road. It was approved last year this time to be a light industrial open lot storage 36 acre minimum facility, and we will be growing cannabis on that facility. We'll be putting our fence up soon, and I just wanted to clarify that because we do have a couple letters of opposition from the same address that I think just with that clarification could aid some things. The purpose of our rezone is to incorporate the rest of our properties. That is from, and I'd like to show you, probably be a little better clarification. Here, let's see if I can get this up. How do I activate it? Thank you. Top here. Top. Thank you very much. Okay. Here we go. This is our farm's grow location. It's 21519-006. This is the former almond farm, now cannabis grow farm. These are the properties to be rezoned. It's the 20 acres here, the 6.1 acres, and then the 37 acres here. We have an existing well on the 37 acres, and one of our biggest purposes for rezoning is to get access to that well all the way back to our farm as a secondary water resource. We're extremely responsible farmers, and we try to be the best of neighbors. We do have folks that live around the farm. We took those folks into consideration when we went for our first approval. We got a lot of participation from them. We're just trying to, at this point, again, not only utilize our resources, but decentralize our equipment to better serve our farm. I'd like to show you something quickly to try to put a little definition here, because we do have two letters of opposition that could probably be clarified here. I did a quick measurement. Sorry, this is red, folks, but this will help you see some definition here. This bottom area, this 215-19024, this is owned by a separate company. It's
Continue.
okay. It's Walnut Creek Water. Our well location is right in the corner of our property on the 215-19015. We do have opposition from our neighbors here. 2 letters of opposition, same address. They're located at the furthest most end of our largest property west. Our plan at this point is our focus is going to be at our already approved farm grow location, but we're trying to get this well all the way back to this location. And just for reference, we are exactly, according to the GIS locator, we are 2,574 feet from the very edge of our already approved farm to the letter of opposition's front gate. I'm just to give you an example of where we're located. And I just wanted to add that, we are responsible farmers. We have installed aerometers to try to monitor the amount of water we're putting down. We also have VFD, a variable frequency drive, to try to slow that thing down and only put down the amount of water we need. And then Mr. Lingerfelter asked last year on our approval how much water we will utilize as a cannabis farm. I just wanted to add that every almond we were growing takes 1 gallon from its beginning life cycle to where it's a nut. Cannabis takes 1/3 of that water. So we are trying to do something good for our area. Obviously enough, the taxes and jobs we're going to be bringing in, we mentioned last time with our farm. If there's any other questions, I'm available for you. I thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming back to work.
I did a little research on the internet, and I know that they were selling cannabis and hemp as a low water use crop. But I've seen 2 reports now that said that cannabis uses more water per acre than corn, wheat, and soybeans, and rice.
Well, I can't necessarily comment to that, but I was asked specifically last year by Mr. Lingerfelter how much less water we'd be utilizing since we have now removed our almonds. We weren't having a very good chance with the almonds out there in the valley. The wind, each time we get flowers on those trees, when the wind comes, it was just ripping all the flowers off. Each time we lose a flower, we lose an almond. We tried unsuccessfully for 5 years before we went out and tried to do something different.
Sure. So if we rezone this, you could put that land into production, could you not? With cannabis?
Right now at this point, right now the project plan is to focus primarily on that 36 acres is a lot to grow. And right now that is the prime soil. It's all the irrigation we have right now set up, aside of trying to pull the big well from that farthest 37 acres over to our existing farm. And it's a great site, and it's a lot of site to grow at 36 acres. So I can't speak to what will necessarily happen in the far distant future, but at this point, it's merely to rezone. We're trying to get all our properties zoned. We're trying to utilize the properties best we can to spread our resources out and also get a secondary water resource back to the farm.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Lennox? Supervisor Bishop.
Chairman Gould.
Yes, I would like to, just out of curiosity, know how deep your well is and what type of irrigation you're using currently.
Okay, we have 1 well on the farm. It's not the biggest well. It's rated about 250 gallons per minute. It's our only well. We have a backup water resource, but it's not very big as well. It's a 10,000 gallon above ground tank. That water is fed. That's another thing we've done to try to diversify, at least when we only had the 1 property, and that is we were watering in 1 set or zone, so we'd have to water the complete field all in 1 shot. We did split that up into 4 zones, so we've done a lot of irrigation modifications to try to take on the new electronics we have there, the VFD controller, and then the aerometer is really neat stuff. That's something now that we can get on the web and see exactly how much water, we call it how much is in the tank. We can check it at 12 inches, 24 inches, and 36 inches to see how much water we actually have down, and then adjust appropriately for the next following watering so we don't waste the water. We're trying real hard to take care of our number one resource.
That's good to know. So what is the depth of your well currently, and then the new well, how deep do you think you'll have to go?
The depth of the well is 625 feet. That's on the farm. I don't have the water level as of now, but what I can tell you is the 37-acre well was part of the old roads development, okay, years ago. It is a 1,400-foot well, 1,400 foot deep. It was to supply a good portion of the roads development before it went belly up. We were fortunate enough to acquire that property with that well attached. And we'll never ever be able to pump the amount of capacity that thing has, but it's a great well. It's already installed, and it's something we'd love to utilize if we own it.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one question for the gentleman. So if the rezone goes forward and is successful, is your intent to expand cannabis growing?
Quite honestly, that's an awful lot of property to be growing again, and I can only speak to the current plan. I don't want to go off base, but and that is the approved 36 acres.
Thank you.
That's pretty much all I have for you.
Supervisor Johnson, any questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I have, I didn't hear the man answer Supervisor Bishop on how he does his irrigation. Is it flooding?
Right now, we were set up for pipe irrigation. From what I understand, it's going to be a tape irrigation. We have underground pipes that go back to our main, and then we have our disbursement, or our IDFs, or intermediate distribution areas that have 4 different zones. So we have valves out of the ground that are going to be connected to tape. That tape will be, it's plastic cover. We're trying to retain as much moisture as we can. Other than that, I don't have all the necessary specifics as far as down to each plant. I don't know that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anyone else here to testify on item 34? Go on down. I can get your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Sandra, and I'm living in 4399 Quadsad Drive. I'm just coming here just to appeal off my right because it's 20. He said 20% oppose, and then he gonna have, because I'm the only house there. I got 30 years with my house there, and my neighbor want to plant marijuana, and not just about that thing. It's about all the situation we're enduring now with the water. Before when we start, I have to go buy my little tub. I used to pay $175, and after that it go up to $250 for the 250 gallons. But now I have to pay $5. And we are in the desert, and he got his well, he gonna plant marijuana, not just for about marijuana. We're in a situation that we need a thing like sustainable for people. And then we are in a situation that is not gonna be a safety for us. I am someone who support the safety and the well, and the wellness. And if our neighbor, I don't have a problem if he want to plant other thing, but about our situation, because he got all those square feet, and then he gonna just stamp about me for the water, where we're gonna have water. We're in the desert. And then I hope we can make the just thing, because I'm just 10 feet in front of him where he gonna plant all his marijuana. The last time when he come, he said that he gonna have drone, all of those stuff, all those things. So what he say, oh, because I have 3 acres, I have to move out from him to plant his marijuana, to have his field. Please, we are to support ourselves, but for our town to grow up with safety, with good things. We need grass. We are a very good town because you guys have been done very well with your job. But now, it is something to help the county. I just come here because I know you used to do the right thing, and then may God touch your heart to do the right things for our neighbor, not only the neighbor, for our county and for our town, because this is a very good town. Because here, even though everywhere is bad, but here we still can say, here there is still a family life, there is still thing, because you guys, every time do the good thing. You start with prayer, and then the Holy Spirit gonna guide you to do the good thing. Everyone need to live. Yes, we live, but do the good thing to support our country, our city, our town, and our county. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Questions for the testifier? No? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to testify on item 34?
Chairman Gould? Can I say
Close the
something? Oh,
public
I'm
hearing.
sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on item 34. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. I'm with Chairman Gould. I have always been told that marijuana is an incredible water-intensive crop. In fact, there was one of the largest marijuana, as if we have anyone from the courts here, facility down in Mojave Valley for many, many years when it was illegal. And the reason they got caught was from the incredible amount of water. It sent up a red flag, and that's how they got caught. So unless things have changed, I don't know if I buy that it's just this, small water, So I'm not sure about this.
From what I researched, it looked like it was 4.4 acre feet to grow marijuana, and it was 4 to 6 acre feet to grow alfalfa. So it's almost as high as alfalfa hay.
Chairman Gould.
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to chime in and say that during my research, the cannabis was just a little bit south of alfalfa, but my research reflected the same, that it was a little bit more water intensive than perhaps what we've heard. Thank you.
Supervisor Bishop?
I just asked Mr. Google, and he says that hemp and cannabis is a very water-intensive crop. So if you trust Mr. Google, I have to agree.
It also was the University of Arizona on top of that, so.
That's probably
make your own decision.
it's probably a better, but I would be interested in what the Planning and Zoning Commission thought when this came in front of them, because there is a split decision, a 4-3 vote.
Director Walsh.
Chairman Gould, members of the board. This came before the Planning and Zoning Commission last month. There were some speakers in opposition, I believe, similar to the speakers today. Just a couple of comments, if I may. The 4 acre feet per acre cultivated would be similar to what we used in our model for a nut tree as well. So your pistachios and almonds are somewhere in the range of 4 to 6 acre feet per acre. At least what we used in our model along with USGS. This property, some of the questions that were raised, this action would allow for the cultivation of all of the property to be to be cultivated with marijuana. So I don't know plans as far as going forward, business plans and decisions that they'll have to make, but this would allow for the full acreage to be cultivated. There was a split decision at the commission. Some of the same comments that are being made today. Specifics, I'm drawing a blank right now as far as specific comments that were raised at the time of the meeting. But yes, same concerns that have been raised here today.
Questions for Director Walsh? Supervisor Bishop.
Kim, it's my understanding that the farm owner wants to rezone this so that he can drill a new well for his farm, not necessarily to use it for cultivation.
It's an existing well.
I'm sorry?
It's an existing well.
Okay, I thought, so is this rezone necessary for this well to provide water to the existing farm?
Chairman Gould, Supervisor Bishop, with regards to county ordinances and the zoning ordinance, it would not be required in order to utilize that well and transfer the water over to the other property. I'm not familiar with state regulations that in marijuana grow facilities, if that is a requirement from a state agency or not. The applicant may know that answer, but as far as county regulations, there's nothing that requires the rezone in order to utilize the water from that existing well.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Angus.
Just for clarification, so with this rezone, the applicant can use all of that land in the future, although he doesn't have plans now, but he could in the future without having to come back to you or the board or anything.
Chairman Gould, Supervisor Angus, currently, so the applicant went through a previous process that was approved for the initial acreage to be used as a grow facility. There is one remaining step that they need to take in order to move forward with that, which is a site plan, which is an administrative review. So it would not come back before the board. Similarly, if this item were approved today, it would require a site plan in order to move forward, but it's really, as long as they meet all the requirements of that site plan, they could move forward and grow without having to come back before the board.
Questions for Director Walsh, Supervisor Johnson, or Supervisor Langenfelter? Hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Chairman Gould?
Supervisor Angus.
I'm going to make a motion that we deny.
Second. You've heard that motion in second. Any further discussion?
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Bishop.
I would like to hear from the applicant just one more time before the vote. I'd like to know why we need the rezone for him to be able to utilize the existing well.
Mr. Lennox.
Well, I just wanted to add, folks, just real quick here, the tape and drip system, these guys, the guys that are doing this stuff, they've been doing this in Colorado and Oklahoma, and they've been doing it for quite a while. The tape and drip system that they have, there's no evaporation. They try to trap all that water, just to let you folks know. And they're currently doing, the hemp, and we understand that the numbers are significant with those, just as they were with the nut trees we've removed. But that's because it's open watering. What they're doing is putting plastic and tape under plastic and then trapping that over the dirt. And they're trying to do everything they can to try to retain that moisture. And I just got some stats here that they're currently farming 80 acres with less than 14 acre feet in Colorado today, right now. And they've been doing this for a number of years.
Mr. Lennox,
Go ahead, ma'am, sorry.
Could you tell me why you need the rezone in order to utilize the existing well?
Well, at this point, from what I understand, and I really can't speak 100% intelligently about it, other than saying that it's going to be part of the farm. That farm is going to be a cannabis farm. It's already in the process. The site plan is currently in pencil now. It incorporates the 36 acres. And I guess I would need to do more research. I don't know if I necessarily will have an opportunity, but I believe they're not going to allow us without fencing and then incorporating that into the cannabis farm to be able to utilize the resources we own. And that's the number one reason for us to, at least my understanding, for us to be able to move forward with it. And as far as our neighbors, they are about 15 to 20 feet from our furthest property line and corner. But that is, again, it's 2,574 feet from the edge of our farm where we plan on growing the cannabis to their front gate, which is right at the very edge of the 215-19015. Our water resource is right at the very front edge of that property. And again, folks, I can't speak for the future, but I do know that these guys are very responsible. They're diligent farmers. We are not a retail facility. We will not be doing anything other than doing wholesale farming. And it's something that I've got experience on because I've been at that farm for about 4 years when we tried real hard to grow the almonds.
Thank you, Mr. Lennox. I appreciate you clearing that up for me.
Thank you.
At this point, I have to agree with Supervisor Angus and Supervisor Lingenfelter. I'll be voting to deny the adoption of this resolution.
You've heard that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 35 is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on item 35. Is there anybody here to testify to item 35? Anyone here to testify to item 35? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on item 35. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve item 35.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Sorry, I think there's a delay on this thing. I was just going to make a motion to approve.
You can second a motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay.
Aye.
The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 36 is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on item 36. Is anyone here to testify on item 36? Is there anyone here to testify on item 36? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on item 36.
Chairman Gold, motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Hearing something.
Sound like Mickey Mouse.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 37. Let's see, Mr. Frisbee.
Public hearing.
It's not a public hearing. It is a public hearing. Is that in the pub? It is in the public hearing. Okay. Item 37 is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on item 37. Anyone here to testify on item 37? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on item 37. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Regular agenda. Item 38. Mr. Walsh. I believe the applicants are on the telephone.
Chairman Gould, that's correct. Item 38 is a rezone from the previous June meeting, was continued to this meeting. I believe one of the questions was whether or not if the item were pulled by the applicant, if they would still then have to wait the year to be, before they could process an application again. But yes, the applicants have confirmed with IT. They were on the phone as well earlier.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
What was your name, sir?
My name's Kerry Berner.
B-A-R-N-E-R?
B-U-R-N-E-R.
Thank you, sir. You can proceed.
So we contacted the neighboring property owners in the Tuscan Sands neighborhood as these residents and properties join the east side of ours. They would be the ones directly affected by the rezone. After talking to more than half of these residents about the rezone and the UTV tour and rental business, they've totally, changed their mind. I can't speak directly for every single one of them, but out of these people we've contacted, they were put at ease knowing that the RV resort would not occupy the full 9.5 acres of property, and it would be living on site to manage the day-to-day operations, and that none of the tours would be handled through any of the residential neighborhoods. It would leave the pavement, go out to these designated areas and come back on the pavement. Also, the side-by-sides have exhausts on them that are only, it's like 86 decibels. A lot of them also said that having another aquifer or water source being available would be a great idea, as water quality has been an issue for some. A lady wrote in that actually owns a piece of property right next to our Shanti Hodges, has provided a letter in favor of the rezone and encourage your votes and recognize this as a fast and growing community, and getting ahead of this growth and determining businesses in the area seems like a prudent way to support the development for the whole community. Her letter, she states the property is a perfect location on Cane Beds Road as RVs, ATVs, and UTVs are already visiting this area. She's excited for the opportunities and possibilities this would bring. Our neighbor right between us, also on the frontage road, has voiced his opinion about a business that he would like to operate on that property as well. And then after reaching out to some of our other neighbors directly to the south that meet our property line, they were concerned about children's safety. We went over our plan of action and showed the separation from the RV resort to the residents. And they, after seeing this and hearing about the way it'd be ran, were excited to hear that it wasn't, occupying the full 9.5 acres, and would like us to do with our property what we would like to do as they would like to do with theirs. They talked about an orchard meeting that property line that they would like to do, and they were excited to hear that there would be vegetation and trees around that RV resort, providing, that barrier that you guys require with this type of zoning. We've also contacted most of the Airbnbs in the area that have multiple places to stay, and wanted to get their input on what the UTV tour rental company and RV resort would do. And they all said that the UTV tours was one of their most requested activities in the area, and they were excited to hear that we'd be working with them and hand in hand as they've been sending people to the Utah area to get this meet the need there. The mayor of Colorado City also has property that's just outside of the 300-foot area, and he's also wrote in a letter in support. And we provided over 21 contacts that we've made, and people are excited to see a family-owned business come to the area. And some of our neighbors have expressed that they would like to become part of our team or employees to help with the day-to-day operations. And after talking to more than 20 of the neighbors in the area, I'm 100% confident that you wouldn't get the same response that you received the first time. Out of the 17 opposition letters, 4 of them don't even own properties in Cane Beds, and we were unable to contact them. Out of the 13 that were left, 8 of those were actual residents that live in the area that we contacted. leaving 5 people that own property in the area, but we were unable to make contact with. So I hope I go over those questions and concerns.
Thank you, sir. Questions for the applicant? Supervisor Langenfelter?
Chairman Gould, thank you. I'm glad that the applicant took the 30 days to go out and talk more in depth with his neighbors to show their plans for the area. I think that the original planning and zoning action, and Director Walsh can tell me if I'm correct or not, most of the commissioners were unfamiliar with that area being so remote. And so they went off of just one of the commissioners, the commissioner from District 1, who had heard some initial pushback on this. I think that the applicant has talked to way more people up there now in the last 30 days. And I think I would probably agree that if it went back to planning and zoning with the new support letters and things like that, that they'd probably get a different result. So I'm not sure if I can motion that it goes back there, but I'm going to be leaning towards approving this today, if not referring it back to planning and zoning. Thank you.
Chairman Gould, as far as options, and I'll defer to Attorney Palmer, but my understanding is that both options are available, that it could be referred back to planning and zoning for consideration, or it could be approved today. Either one would be a viable option. With regards to the discussion, without getting into the minds of each of the commissioners, it's hard for me to say how much they relied on the one commissioner, but I will say that the one commissioner that represents the area up there was against it and did speak against the rezone. So how much that weighed into their individual decision, I can't say specifically.
Supervisor Angus.
Tim, at the planning and zoning meeting, were there a lot of people who came and spoke, maybe the same people that now have adjusted their thinking after speaking to the applicants?
Chairman Angus, or Chairman Gould, Supervisor Angus, I apologize. We received, I'm trying to go back in my mind, it's been a bit since the Planning and Zoning Commission. There were a number in opposition that spoke against it. We received, let me see real quick, we received 17 letters of opposition at the time. So at that time, due to, I think that was a big factor in the opposition, was the number of letters against. And then also, I think the input of the commissioner in the area was a factor as well. As was mentioned, there's been a number of letters that have come in to the clerk of the board's office. I haven't been able to, because they've come in at a later time in connection with the meeting, I haven't been able to compare those with the letters that we received against to see if any of the opposition have, flipped over. I couldn't tell you one for one whether those have changed specifically or not, but yeah, and I forget where I was going with that, but I don't know if that answers the question.
If we were to send it back to planning and zoning, then you'd have time to do that.
Definitely, we could look at the letters that are now in support, and we could tell you whether or not they've gone from opposition to support.
Supervisor Angus.
Well, I think we've been talking about this for a long time, so I think it's time to make a decision here at the board level. So I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion in second. This is not a public hearing.
No.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you. I agree with the fact if we're going to do anything, we should send it back to planning and zoning, not calling into question what the applicant is saying. With all the support that he has now, whether that's here or there, we don't really know. If it's going to be fair to the people who live up there, I believe it should go back to planning and zoning. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and I share that concern. Do we have a motion in a second?
Since, Chairman Gould?
Discussion.
Since this is in Supervisor Langenfelter's area, I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Chairman Gould. Chairman Gold?
You can proceed, Supervisor.
Thank you. If it were to go forward today, I would vote in favor. However, I do want to make sure that we respect our planning and zoning commissioners and we use the process. I want to applaud the applicant again for the additional public comment that he's gone out on his own and met individually with his neighbors over the last 30 days. So I think that it would be appropriate to send it back to planning and zoning and hoping for a different result. But I just want to let the applicant know that that's only in respect to the neighbors and the Planning and Zoning Commission, but I'm full support of what I've learned about this project. Thank you.
Chairman Gould?
Supervisor Angus.
So how long is that process? So you're talking about sending it back to planning and zoning, it has to go through that whole thing again?
Director Walsh.
Chairman Gould, Supervisor Angus, our next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting will be next week, so we're too late to be able to get on that agenda. So we'd be looking likely at the August agenda. We have time to get it on the August agenda. So we can get it on the August agenda, then it would come back before the board the first meeting in September. Chairman Gould, if I may just offer this up. If the question is the number of letters in support versus the letters of opposition that we received, if the board would like to continue this to the next meeting, we could easily go through the letters that have been received by the clerk of the board, compare those with the letters of opposition that we received previously, and have it back before the board next meeting.
Would I be allowed to bring through letters then in that time frame? I apologize. May I speak?
You can proceed.
Would I be allowed? We had a lot of people saying they would write in letters. I mean, over 20 or 21 letters that they were saying they would write. We do have quite a few of those that we've given to you guys, but to be honest with you, to twist people's arm, I'm gonna have to go back to these people that said that they would write letters and get them for you guys. I mean, I have a list here, but not everybody that said they would write a letter in did write a letter in.
Chairman Gould.
Director Walsh.
If we could receive those letters this week, we could make that analysis and have it ready before the next meeting. And those letters could be submitted via email to us.
Chairman Gould, any item that is agendized on the board's agenda, any incoming input is accepted up until the Thursday before the meeting. So while I get what you're saying, Director Walsh, people have the opportunity to submit those to us through our office up until that date.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Gould, I'll
Supervisor Angus.
retract my motion then.
Okay, then I'll do away with my second.
And if it's okay with Supervisor Lingenfelter, make a motion just to continue it, to get the letters, to make everyone feel comfortable, continue it to our next meeting.
I'll second that. Thank you.
You've heard that motion in sec. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Johnson.
I still have opposition to this just because of the fact that we're letting the people that want to push this forward, push it forward after it was recommended denial. We're not giving the people in opposition an adequate chance because they won't know about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. You've heard that motion in second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
I'm going to vote nay also. By your 3-2 vote, you've passed, went into Senate mode. Item 38. Or actually, you passed Supervisor Angus's motion. Or Supervisor Bishop's motion.
It was Angus.
The motion passes. On to 39. Mr. Letoski.
Chairman Gould, members of the board, a fundamental responsibility of the Mojave County Transportation Commission is to present to the board for consideration and approval a 5-year capital improvement road program. And customarily, it does come before the board pretty much at the start of the fiscal year. And in this instance, we are presenting as staff on behalf of the Transportation Commission that uniformly has unanimously approved a 5-year capital road improvement program for FY23 and through 27. It is fiscally unconstrained. However, the FY23 projects align precisely with the Public Works budget request that the board will consider at the next meeting. And there were only a couple of nominal changes versus the SERP that was presented last year or currently exists. We added a project for the completion and hard surfacing of Verde Road in the Golden Valley area to complete its pavement from SR 68 down to Shinnerum Drive. Staff added a small quarter-mile section of Chino Drive that would complete hard surfacing from Chino to Bowie and Agua Fria. The last two were just recently completed. Some projects that were shifted include Bolsa and Egar hard surfacing. We moved those projects to FY24 due to budgeting limitations in FY23. And the only thing I will say is that, yes, it is a fiscally unconstrained 5-year program, but I would emphasize that it is important for the board to consider those projects that are important to them. I mentioned high-dollar projects like Vanderslice Road, which has been programmed for some definitely 10 plus years, because it does give us as staff the opportunity to cite the capital improvement road program as those being projects of importance when we do attempt to pursue grant funds for those types of projects. It adds a level of importance that the board has already seen those projects. So with that, I will entertain any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Director. Questions for Director Letoski? Supervisor Bishop.
Steve, do we have any updated information regarding the grant request for US 93 at Pierce Ferry?
Excellent question, Supervisor Bishop. Chairman Gould, Supervisor Bishop, that is the RAISE grant that we currently have in the US DOT, highly competitive discretionary grant. We submitted it in April, and my anticipation would be, I would hope that we would hear of an award probably by the end of this month. I can't predict that, but there was a very interesting development last month. The US DOT, the RAISE evaluation team, contacted me directly and requested just my calculations for the benefit cost analysis for that project, demonstrating that there was indeed a benefit to constructing that project. I would reason that the US DOT RAISE evaluation team would not take the time to contact me if they were not serious about our proposal, and they did not question my calculations, but they just wanted to have them on file. So I took that to be very, very, very encouraging, and all they did when I sent them the project file or the Excel spreadsheet is they just said thank you. So I take that as encouraging, and I do hope that we'll hear of an announcement, the greater announcement of all projects toward the end of this month, perhaps.
Great, that is encouraging, and I don't know if it helped any, but I did write a letter to Senator Fan, who suggested to me that she had some one-time money that the state could put toward transportation, and I shared that with her about the interchange needs there for Pierce Ferry. So.
And just one quick note, speaking of federal projects, we do have a number of federal projects on the SERP listed in FY23. I always thought that that was important, but under the estimated cost, 3 of them indicate 0, and what I'm indicating there is that's 0 county cost. So we were able to secure 100% federal funding for namely traffic safety projects.
Fantastic.
Further questions for Director Letoski? Supervisor Johnson, you have any questions or comments? Supervisor Langenfelter, do you have any questions or comments? Am I penetrating the cone of silence? They still on the line? Ginny?
So what we're checking.
Thank you.
Oh, there they are.
Supervisor Johnson, you have any questions for Director Latoski?
Done, sir.
Supervisor Langenfelter, questions for Director Latoski? Supervisor Bishop, you have questions?
No, I just wanted to thank Steve for adding the road improvements in the Golden Valley area. And with that, I will make a motion that we approve the 5-year plan.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item 40. Director Latoski.
Chairman Gould and members of the board, the City of Kingman undertook an improvement project for about a quarter mile of Port Way in the Kingman Airport Industrial Park. I understand that the city secured a Arizona Commerce Authority grant to complete the work, and the work was just recently completed. Staff has inspected the project and the outcome, and staff recommends the board consider and accept the quarter-mile segment of Port Way into the Mojave County Road Maintenance System as a paved road.
Questions for Director Latoski? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Bishop.
Steve, is this part of the agreement that the county has with the city that once they improve a road out there at the industrial park that we have an agreement that we would accept it or something close to that?
Chairman Gould, Supervisor Bishop, to the best of my recollection, I believe we've always, the board's has always taken the airport roads in individually as they're completed. I do not recall an agreement. There was a more mass acceptance of certain roads about 10 plus years ago in like an overall bundle package, but that was the only thing I remember. I don't remember a specific agreement though.
Okay, but the airport itself, the industrial port, airport is managed by the city of Kingman, but it's still owned by Mojave County?
Well, it's in the unincorporated area, so all of the public rights-of-ways are county rights-of-ways.
Okay.
And as roads are improved and accepted for maintenance, they become the county's responsibility because they're in the unincorporated area.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve. Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 41. Director Latoski.
Chairman Gould and members of the board, I place this on for formal action for consideration. This is a position, the office specialist position in the engineering division. It's really an extension of my office, working under the administrative supervisor, that we are requesting be reclassified from office specialist range 11 to what's called an administration specialist range 15. It makes for the recruitment of a very highly talented administrative professional that can do a multitude of business functions for Public Works, and namely for HERF, the engineering division. And there's some specialty responsibilities that I believe truly rise above a typical office specialist. That involves clerking the Transportation Commission meetings, as well as the Mojave County Traffic Safety Committee meetings, as well as performing some some complex financial and contractual management type of tasks, as Public Works is charged with managing all of the licenses and franchises for occupying public rights-of-ways throughout the county. So because Engineering Division really manages the business functions of the Highway User Revenue Fund, we see this particular position really best suited to perform those functions in a real independent manner, but yet, you know, reporting to the administrative supervisor, and the administrative supervisor is my executive assistant.
Questions for Director Latosky? Hearing none. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 42, County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Chad Kingsley was selected as the top candidate for the Mojave County Public Health Director position. He is highly qualified to lead the Public Health Department. I am pleased to recommend him to you for approval. He is here, and I would like to introduce him to you and give you an opportunity to meet him. He will be, if approved by the board, as recommended, he would be starting on August 1st, and we'll have a full week of transition with the current director, Director Denise Burley. So he's right up front. Dr. Chad Kingsley, if you would please step up to the podium, board members. I don't know if you have any questions or if you'd like him to share a thought or two with you, but I asked him to be here just so he can meet you and be prepared to interact with you. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. Dr. Kingsley, you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, Chairman, Board, happy to be here today. I have over 15 years experience in medical and public health, and my last 10 years have been with the Southern Nevada Health District. I've worked extensively through my career with partnering with communities, stakeholders, as well as decision makers, making sustainable decisions, as well as interventions within the communities, both on education as well as in healthcare reform, healthcare and for our community. Since March 2020, I've also been involved in the incident command system in our response to the pandemic, but also working with the community, directly with the schools and making the intervention there and the best possible outcomes for Las Vegas and the community, that's surrounding community. Personally, my family's from this region. My grandparents are originally from Tucson, but they migrated to rural communities in Nevada. Very familiar with this area, though, and been born and raised. And my wife and I are parents of 4 very active children. So,
thank you, sir. Questions for Dr. Kingsley?
Chairman Gold, I don't have any questions, but I like what I'm hearing about you, sir, and I like what I'm seeing this morning, so you'll have my vote, and I wish you all the luck transitioning to Mojave County. I did the same thing when I was 2 years old, so it's not so hard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. When you were going for the job, did you have a chance to look at some of the older videos of meetings in the last 2 years that were arguably a very difficult period for all public health officials, and maybe some of the unique things that Mojave County brings to the table for our public health?
I wasn't going to share that with him.
Yeah, I did not run for the hills, no. So, yeah, I have gone back. I've watched about the last year of videos, still going through all of them. when I did apply for the position, the memory of you guys had made the news in a few different places, and it was been investigating that. I experienced the same thing. As we know, it was a very divided and contentious period, but it was also, if anything, an opportunity to grow, to see where we're lacking and to improve. And it was the same in our community. And so we're looking forward to engage in continuing that work.
Thank you. And did I hear correctly, you have some sort of attachment to Bullhead City family?
I did. My uncle lived there at one time, but Bullhead and Tucson was my original. And I still have family. I actually believe I have a cousin here in town.
Okay. Everyone has a cousin here.
Everyone has a cousin here in town, but they're kind of, my grandma was of 13, and they kind of spread out all over through Arizona, Nevada. So.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to getting to know you.
Good.
And Cousin Vinny.
And Cousin Vinny, yes.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no questions of the applicant aside from the fact that they didn't completely fill out the application form. But my preference in this is that we use the employee talent that we have now. Nothing against Mr. Kingsley or anything else, but I would rather see Melissa Palmer put into that position. She has a master's degree. She's been here with us. I think we need to encourage the people in Mojave County who work for us and give us their time to move into positions of authority. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman Gould. Dr. Kingsley, it's nice to meet you. You come at the recommendation of our county manager, which I do have a lot of respect for and hold in very high regard. In my district, up on the Strip, in the Colorado City area, Centennial Park area, there's a lot of health challenges up there. I look forward to working with you because they really need to have a lot of public health assistance and collaboration with the clinic and a lot of the things they're going through right now. So I look forward to tackling those puzzles with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Gold, I make a motion that we approve the hiring of Dr. Kingsley at the position recommended.
And I'll second that.
You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Item 43, Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Chairman Gould. The next several items all relate to water improvements for the various communities in my district. The first of which is the Chloride Domestic Water Improvement District. I propose that we approve not more than $1 million for water improvement projects within the Chloride Domestic Water Improvement District.
Oops. Oh, we're in 43, okay. Thought I skipped another one.
Questions for Supervisor Bishop?
And I pose that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
I just want to commend Supervisor Bishop on these water infrastructure projects. I think it's, in my opinion, it's really, these infrastructure projects are the best thing that we can do to leverage these funds for the future. So I think that these are great projects. Thank you.
We've got a couple of people that want to testify. Tanya Dowson.
Good afternoon, Tanya Dawson, Mojave County taxpayers. And under the Biden administration, equity is just another word for wealth redistribution. This agenda item appears to be paid for by a taxpayer-funded American Rescue Plan Act grant. It appears taxpayers are being forced to pay for water storage tank and repair of leaking water lines in the Chloride Domestic Water Improvement District. Consistent with Marxist values, this agenda requires beneficiaries of our redistributed wealth to be low income and moderate income. This is part of the Biden administration's equity agenda. Socialist programs are always veiled in some virtuous sounding cause, like helping the needy. Never mind the immorality of compulsory charity behind it. This agenda item falls in line with the United Nations Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goal number 6 to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, which is basically government control of all water. I'm going to put this up here again. I was mistaken. The fine print on this document shows that it comes from a government, the United States government website, and it's the United States National Statistics for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a United States document. It's not a UN document, but it does show the United Nations goals. When Marxism is practiced long enough, people start to accept it as normal, and eventually they believe it's necessary. I'm sure many may think that this water project is necessary. Marxists want us to get to the point where we don't bat an eye at compulsory charity, and sadly it seems we're there. The United Nations would have us believe that water is a right. It's not. Water is the product of somebody's valuable time, energy, and talent, and those someones need to be justly compensated. I paid for my own well. I bought my own water storage tank. I paid for the repairs of my own broken water lines and the rest of the expenses involved in owning a well, and now I'm being forced to give water infrastructure to other people. The people who use the water are the ones who should be paying for their own water infrastructure. Forcing taxpayers to pay for this is un-American. Our elected representatives should not be acting as the wealth redistribution arm of the Biden administration. Thank you.
Ma'am, what city do you live in?
What city do I live in? I live in Mojave County.
Do you live in a city or in an unincorporated area?
I'm not going to go into detail. I get death threats from people because I'm a Trump supporter, so I don't want to give out. I'm the only one. Anyway.
Okay. The reason I ask is because the water systems that are inside the municipalities and the sewer systems inside the municipalities were either funded through federal grants or through a low-income loan from WIFA, which is federal money that goes to the state to go down. So if you live in one of the incorporated cities, that money was federal money also. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's federal money going to communities that I don't live in, and that's an inappropriate use of taxpayer money.
Sure, but if you live inside of one of the municipalities, then you're participating in that. I just wanted to take a minute and point that out.
Okay, no, I don't live in any of those.
Okay, thank you. Diana Dunsmore.
Good afternoon. I am Diana Dunsmore, and I live in the town site of Chloride, Arizona, and I'm here to support item number 43 for the American Recovery Plan grant. First of all, I need to thank you, Supervisor Bishop, for yours and Linda Owen's prompt and always courteous response whenever I reach out to communicate with your office. You are always getting back to me right away with my concerns. Thank you. Secondly, I want to thank you so much for everything that you've done in support of bringing an ARPA grant to Chloride's Water District. It is desperately needed. It's absolutely a necessity. It's an old system with many failures because of its age. We have no functional backup system. monthly undetected water loss averages 40% or more, which is twice that of our neighboring water districts. The budget is strained as it is with the repairs that we have now, and our 2022 budget experienced a 10% deficit. So without this grant, I don't know how the water system can continue to upgrade and move forward and provide water for the people who bought property knowing they were in a water district that would provide water for them. I am here today asking for some kind of oversight monitoring the use of the $1 million grant. Supervisor Bishop is aware of some of my concerns with the functioning of the board, and I am proposing that there be something in place that would require the board to initiate contact with the Rural Water Association of Arizona and maintain a working relationship with them while they are administering this grant. I went to their annual conference in Prescott in May, and they have a lot of resources and a lot of wise people. Unfortunately, the board members weren't too interested in coming and aren't interested in hearing what I've learned there. So I think I don't know what it would look like to have an oversight that has them be in touch with that excellent resource during this. I am willing to assist in that effort in whatever way. I just think we need to be using the best practices and state-of-the-art equipment and the updates that are being made, and I think that connection would be our best bet for that. And again, I thank you for your support and also for the CDB grant, and I wish there were others here to thank you as well, but we all do.
Questions for the testifier? Ms. Dunsmore?
No questions, but I want to thank you for coming and speaking on behalf of the town site of Chloride, which has a very long and complicated history with their water. Chloride, for those of you that don't know, was the first incorporated city in Mojave County. They incorporated in they couldn't get along with their elected officials, and so they disincorporated, making them the first city in Mojave County to disincorporate. So they have problems with their water and problems with their elected official, but this elected official is very proud and honored to be able to share some of this ARPA money with the town site. The water situation there has been volatile since I lived there as a child. And it's the water pipes are continually breaking. The fire hydrants don't necessarily work. Years ago, they got a grant to bring water in from the Golden Valley area, which eliminated some of the problems with strychnine in the water from the mining history that's also very colorful in that community. So with all that, this is probably the most worthy water project of all of them that I am supporting that you'll hear about today. As far as the Rural Water Association, I have no knowledge about this group, but Mojave County will be administering this grant. We will have a check sheet for the Chloride Water Improvement District to follow, because we understand that these small communities are ran by elected or appointed civilian employees that don't necessarily have the background in finance in order to do all the paperwork correctly to be able to pass an audit should that happen from the federal government. So County Manager Elchers, if you could add anything to that, please feel free to step in.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Supervisor Bishop, indeed, the Mojave County professional staff primary underlying goal is to support with the expenditures and to ensure that we are in compliance with the guidelines we received with these funds, because we will be audited. We know that. We shared that with our board, and every project that has been through the board up to this point has met those guidelines. So to ensure that the implementation, it continues in compliance, we're developing a checklist It's been worked on by our finance professionals, by procurement professionals, by the county attorney's office. It will serve as a guiding tool, and it will be used for projects that have already been through the board, as well as those the board is going to approve today or in subsequent future board meetings. So we understand the value of that. This process has evolved with more projects going through the board. We've realized the need to support and counsel and guide in the process, and that's the purpose of that checklist that you mentioned.
Okay, thank you. And I can't think of anything more important to the human race than water. I mean, food's important, but without water, we don't exist. So I think this is a worthy ARPA project, so.
And I will be happy to provide you information about the Rural Water Association of Arizona. They're an amazing group. It's supported by the state of Arizona.
Manager Elters, are you aware of this organization, and do we need them for our purposes here today?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Bishop, I am aware of them. I'm not intimately familiar with them. I would say, as you intended, this project provides funding for the Chloride Town site water improvement. We will work with the town representatives. If this body wants to support chloride in that process, we welcome it. We are going to follow the checklist and the county requirement, whether we're working directly with chloride or whether this helpful body is going to help them. So we'll stay the course. We'll provide the checklist. We'll make sure that it's followed. And if they get some help along the way, we certainly welcome it, and we'll be happy to collaborate with them as well.
Okay, so it would be up to the board members to request that from this organization.
Yes, indeed. Our Board of Supervisors is allocating the funding. Staff will ensure that it follows compliance. But if the community wants to bring on some help from the Rural Arizona Water Group, that's the more the merrier, I would say.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dunmore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Ma'am, did I hear you right? Your water system loses 60% of its water?
40.
Okay. Which is still terrible, but it's less terrible than 60.
It's it has gone up to 58, but that was just once.
Okay.
But it averages above 40% per month.
Thank you, ma'am. What's the pleasure of the board?
We have a motion and a second.
You've heard that motion in second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, do have it. So ordered. Item 44, Supervisor Bishop.
Okay, this next item is very similar. I'm asking not to exceed $535,015 for the Mount Tipton Water Company to purchase a new well, casing, and a standpipe to replace the old equipment. Motion.
Supervisor, is this a private water company rather than a water district?
It is a private water company, yes.
Has anybody taken a look at making sure that they don't use this money as their own investment when they go to the Corporation Commission for a rate increase?
I think this has been approved through the county attorney's office.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Bishop, with regards to how they use the money, certainly that goes back to the discussion that on the last agenda item where County Manager Elters discussed, there's a checklist, there's a process where they have to submit what they are using it for, receipts, purchasing documents, and so that should be presented there. Certainly, as you're pointing out, there are benefits that go to whether it's a private company or a water district or another municipality. Certainly money is fungible.
My issue is that when you go to the Corporation Commission for a rate increase, you let them know that you have to invest, or you did invest X amount of dollars into your system. And I don't want them to be able to use this money as the basis for a rate increase at the Corporation Commission. That's actually my question.
And Supervisor Bishop, Supervisor and Chairman Gould, I'm not aware of anything in the ARPA rules that tie into the Corporation Commission and the rate requests.
So hopefully, if they do go for a rate increase at the Corporation Commission, that someone will point out if they're using that $500,000, claiming that it's their investment, that it was not really their investment.
I'm sure all these records will be available to the public, and we previously approved the White Hills Water Company as well, which is private. So.
And that's fine. Any further questions? Pleasure of the board.
Chairman Gold, I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion in second. Any further discussion? You on there? Come on up, Tanya Dowson.
Thank you, Tanya Dowson, Mojave County taxpayer. So this is another ARPA grant, and again, that's Biden's agenda for equity, redistribution of our wealth. This appears to be taxpayers are being forced to pay for a brand new 1,200-foot well, and we're being forced to pay to replace old equipment. One person's needs does not create a claim on another person's life, although people are starting to lose sight of that, and they are starting not to understand that anymore. But just because somebody needs something doesn't mean it's my responsibility to provide them with what they need. Even if it's water or food, that is not my responsibility. As a charity, if I do it voluntarily, yes, but for somebody to point a gun to my head and say I have to do that, or the IRS to come and say you better pay your taxes or you're gonna go to jail or we'll take your property or something else bad will happen to you, that just isn't right. So again, consistent with Marxist values, this agenda item requires beneficiaries of our redistributed wealth to be low income or moderate income. This is Marxism, from each according to their ability to each according to their need. This, again, also falls under United Nations Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goal 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. The United Nations wants to control water so they could control people. ARPA is filled with big government policies that significantly increase size and reach of the federal government, and our local elected officials seem too eager for this free money, appear to be trading our local authority to the federal government a little bit at a time. Equity is one of those whole of government tools for political power. The American Rescue Plan openly advances equity in the context of in the context of the American Rescue Plan, equity means redistribution. According to the U.S. Department of Treasury's document, the American Rescue Plan centering racial equity or wealth redistribution and policymaking. The Biden administration has made promoting racial equity or wealth redistribution a top priority since day one. Nowhere is it clearer than in the American Rescue Plan. The Treasury has made advancing racial equity or wealth redistribution a center tenet in its decision-making on how these funds are spent. Finally, when state and local governments report back on how they have used these funds, Treasury will ask them to discuss how their expenditures have advanced equity.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chairman Gold.
Supervisor Bishop.
It would be okay with me if Tanya Dow wants to speak on 45 and 46 as well, and just get it all out of the way.
That's up to you.
As I look at the attorney.
Or you can just say ditto, ditto, ditto.
I'm not saying ditto, ditto, ditto. I'm bringing up different points each time. But if you're hearing ditto, 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 then I'm like talking to the wall, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
So, that's sad.
What's the pleasure of the board?
We have a motion and a second.
You heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it so ordered. Item 45, Supervisor Bishop.
Chairman Gold, this is another water project using the ARPA funds not to exceed $165,014 for the Joshua Valley Utility Company to purchase and install 2 diesel generators and transfer switches.
Thank you, Supervisor.
With that being said, if there's no further discussion, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Donnie, you want to come talk on this?
It seems there's no point in continuing. You guys are okay being the redistribution arm of the Biden administration. So I'll let you go. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 46, Supervisor Bishop.
Chairman Gold, this is the final and last project for the ARPA funds in the amount not to exceed $573,500 to support 3 infrastructure projects for the Lake Mead Community Co-op in Meadview, Arizona. And I do make a motion that we approve.
Second.
You've heard motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none. We're adjourned.